Early days is probably playing football, be it Green Island boys. Go back probably as far as maybe 6, 7 years old. I remember one of my close friends in New Mossley at the time just saying to me, "Do you want to try at a local team?" And he brought me down to Green Island, and to be honest, I didn't look back. It was very fond memories there. It was such a great time, great people there, great club. Produced a lot of good players, went on, had really good careers, but all in all, Green Island would be my memory of growing up as a young boy playing football. Yeah, it was brilliant. It was actually great to see it. I know it got struck last year in terms of Green Island making that partnership with Larne. It was nice from my end to see it in terms of moving from Green Island across the water and then coming back and really seeing the club form a partnership with Green Island. And it was actually at the time when I seen it, it put a wee smile on my face, because it brought back a lot of good memories when I was there, and it's great to see some familiar faces being at the club when I was there, and they're coming in and I'm seeing them again and crossing paths again. I always try and nip my head down in some shape or form, going down and seeing Green Island as a young boy growing up, and then sort of my career advanced then, and then obviously it just takes its toll, so you can't really get into much to the club. So every time I do being in that sort of around the area, I do try and find myself always nip down and see the people there, or I try and arrange a wee friendly every year at Green Island just to be back at the facility. So every time you go back there, it brings a wee smile. So honestly, to see the club form a partnership with Green Island, it was brilliant for me personally, because I've got an affiliation with the club. But for the club going forward, it's a top club to be involved with. Yeah, it was early age. As far as I can remember, I was playing for Green Island, maybe under 10s, 11s, 12s. Around about under 12s, I started probably getting scouts coming to watch games, and a few of them are still scouting now, but I remember going on maybe trials sometimes twice a week. I was going across to Everton and City and Chelsea and Arsenal, and at that time it was probably just above my head. It was just going to another club to play a game of football. So in terms of the move, it actually came around pretty quick. I went on about 8 trials, I think, in the space of 6 months, and then I remember Man City inviting me and my family over, and we went over. I played a game, actually played for the under-18 side that day. I was only 13, 14 years old. I think we played against Stoke, and I came off the bench, and obviously my mum and my dad were at the game, all my family, my brother and my sister, and they actually took over Stevie Graham at the time and Lawrence Gilloway, who was head of sort of Green Island at the time. And as a young boy, 13, 14, you're just going and playing on a match, and you obviously see them all on the sidelines, and I thought I'd done quite well. And then I remember looking across, and I remember seeing them all walk away on me. I was like, what's going on here? So obviously all the emotions, you're on trial, you're playing the game, you're trying to impress, but you're then looking across and you're seeing all your family and Stevie and Lawrence all walk away at Gilsey at the time. Like, what's going on here? So we obviously continued playing the game. I remember rushing in after the game, getting a shower and getting my clothes on, and then the manager at the time brought me up to the offices. I remember mum and dad looking a bit like teary, and Stevie Graham looking a bit teary, and then I walked up, and then within probably half an hour I was told that I was moving to Manchester, and I got offered a contract at Man City, and they were going to move my family over, and just a real surreal time. So it came around very, very quickly, but it was probably at the time an opportunity that I couldn't turn down. One I relished, one I loved, and then when it came about, it was just very quick, because it was around about Christmas, and then I had to move by the end of the year. So it was more or less speed up the whole process, and having to probably relocate, having to move family over, having to move schools. It was just a real quick process, but it was one I look back on and I can remember it well, and it was great to be a part of at the time. It was brilliant. No, because my family was there. In terms of leaving my friends, in terms of leaving where I grew up, in terms of New Mossley, and I went to Glengormley High School, where I'd obviously formed that wee friendship group of my first year and second years. Going into third year was when I got my move. Probably regret it at the time, but I didn't really care about my education as much. I thought I was going to be a footballer all my life, and I probably took a sidestep in terms of education. I still done all the exams, but I didn't really put my effort into them, because I knew I was probably going to Manchester. But at the time, no. To answer your question, it wasn't it wasn't a hard move. It wasn't a hard move in terms of homesickness, because my family were there. It was good support that my family were. They gave up a lot for me to move across with me. My dad relocated, my mum relocated, they got new jobs. Manchester City obviously houses, which was brilliant. And I just basically moved the transition into playing a part-time footballer with Green Island boys, training Tuesday, Thursday, playing on Saturday with all my mates and someone who I really enjoyed playing with. Then get into a full-time environment, going to school maybe 2 or 3 days a week, but you're now a full-time footballer at 13. So in terms of, it was something I'd always loved and wanted to do. It was easy. In terms of leaving my friends, it was quite hard, but it was only a 45-minute flight away if I ever wanted to go home and see my friends. And at that time you were young, there was no real hindrances, there was no real distractions in my life. I just wanted to play football and be a footballer, so I gave me all at 13 wanting to do it. And looking back now, it was probably the right decision I made at the time. Again, anything really. I remember Pete Lowe, one of the education officers. I met him probably on my first couple of days. Took me to a whole new school. Again, I remember being at Glengarmley when I was here, and I remember thinking if an English lad came to our school, you used to look at him as if like, who is he? So God knows what they thought about me in Manchester, if I'm being honest. But in terms of Pete Lowe, he was brilliant in terms of the education side. They had welfare officers who constantly talking to you. At the time, you probably just batted it off because you just wanted to play football. But there was always someone there as a support mechanism in anything you needed. In terms of football on the pitch, I worked with some top-class coaches. I was around top-class players who are now international stars, who are playing Champions League week in, week out. So to grow up in that environment was surreal. My mum and dad was there as a support mechanism to me as well. My family was there, my brother and my sister. So I had a real good sort of strong group around me to make me thrive and do well. Man City looked after us tremendously well in terms of housing my family. They relocated us, anything we needed to put their hand to, and we got basically. It was just up to me to show my face every day and improve every day to want to be a footballer, and that was my job at the time. Yeah, I harp on about this place. The environment is absolutely top drawer. It's not much of a difference at that time. I know now I've been maybe twice to City since, and it's a whole new level now. But when I first went, we trained at a place called Platt Lane. Platt Lane was sort of it was in a roughish area of Manchester, but at the same time it was a great facility. They had the indoor dome. We actually had 2 indoor domes. We had a 3G pitch, we had 3 grass pitches, we had a full gym, and then staff through your ears in terms of full-time staff. As you can imagine, when I went to Man City at the time, I think there was 20 academy graduates in 1 year made it into the first team, which was surreal at the time. So in terms of an academy and producing players, it was the best academy to be at that stage. There was no money then. It was all about producing academy players, and at that time it was a real thriving place. It was a real good academy, real good structure, real good staff members, and the environment was top drawer. Very similar to here. You had your gym, you had your pitches, you had your full-time classroom, you had everything there to want to go and succeed, and it was very similar to here now. Yeah, it's massive. I think the big thing is you can have all the facilities. It's up to the players to use them. We can have the best of gyms there. If the players don't step a foot in it means nothing. You could have a full 3G pitch, as you can see out behind me here. Again, if the players don't use it the best they can, then it means nothing. Again, most of the older generation would say we grew up with a field and a ball, and you put your jumpers down for goalposts. I sort of came out of that area. You were still using your jumpers for goalposts, but it has advanced on in terms of the strength and conditioning, the physios. We've got a health suite round there in terms of everything here that you need to go on and make it as a full-time footballer. And we're just giving you the tools. I feel like this environment is top drawer. It's a good working environment. It's a strong environment. There's good people around the place that want people to do well. We share it with the first team. So in terms of mentors, in terms of our lads, walking by these boys every day and looking up to them and feeding off them and asking questions, you couldn't think of any better place to be as a young footballer wanting to make it either in Irish League or make it across the water. But again, I'll always put it back to the player. You need to use it to the best of your ability and use it to the most of your advantage, where anytime you walk in here, you have to make yourself better every single day. And if you're not doing that, or if you're not using the recovery the recovery suite, or you're not using the recovery boots, or you're not using the ice baths, or you're not getting in the gym, then it might as well not be there. So again, I'll always put it back to the players. We can have the best environment, but you need to use it. It was brilliant because I obviously grew up in a Rangers background in terms of where I grew up in New Malsey. It was very much Rangers. Not that it mattered, but in terms of me moving from Man City to Rangers, it was massive for people looking at it from where I was back home. So massive club. Probably didn't realise how big it was until I joined it. Yes, you can always say Rangers and Celtic are massive teams in Scotland and you're in a bubble and the two biggest clubs in the world, and some might argue, but until you're actually in that club, if you got a feel for it, you probably don't realise how big it is until you're in it. I probably knew that very early because I came from Man City, where I remember signing and it was on the Sky Sports yellow bar, and I was like sitting in my house in Manchester and looking at it and thinking, well, I'm on the yellow bar. And I came from a Man City under-18s player who I was a nobody really, to getting a move to Rangers. Now all the money started coming in Man City then, so to make that move to Rangers was quite big probably for Rangers, taking a player off Man City. But I just seen it. I was just a kid. I was just an 18-year-old joining Rangers and boyhood club, and wanted to join Rangers, wanted to play for Rangers, and it was a dream come true for me when I signed. When it all came about, it was mental. It was a real media hype around it. It was massive, and I'm not going to lie, I struggled with it, not mentally, but I struggled the demands of transition from English football back to Scottish football. It was very much like Irish League at the time. I joined an under 19 Rangers side who were very competitive. It wasn't sort of play from the back football. It was more in your face. It was fast. It was direct. It was all about winning. You needed to win at Rangers or you were replaced. So getting in that environment where I was transitioning from Man City to Rangers, I did find it tough. I couldn't get in the team. I couldn't get in the team for a full year. So I went from a really high to a really low in the space of 6 months, where I found it mentally draining, mentally tough. But again, you just had to get through it. You had to keep working hard. You had to keep knuckling down, and that's what I did. And thankfully, I got my rewards at Rangers at the time. Again, I remember Brian Kidd saying to me, Brian Kidd worked with me at Man City, he's my under-18 manager. I know he came in for us for about 6 months, and then he got promoted up to the first team. And he used to say to us, never get too low and never get too high. And everyone says it to you now, and you battle it off. But the big thing with football is it is full of highs and lows, and there's probably more lows than there is in highs. And the highs last 2 seconds, and the lows seem to last 10 months. And that's just football. The big thing I would say for any young kid is, again, always remain level-headed. Never get too ahead of yourself. Never get too down, and just stick to your daily habits. So again, go back to the environment. If you're in this environment every day, it's coming in on time. That's the first thing, coming in on time, coming in looking good. And then when you're in this environment, using every single ounce of everyone in this environment, in terms of strength and conditioning, in terms of myself and Keith and all the other staff around the building, you got to use them. You got to use them to get better every single day. So again, just to go back on the question, just never get too low and never get too high. Just always stay level grounded and really just maintain your daily basic habits. And that could count as you're around the place being a better person, or that could count on the pitch in terms of passing drills and possessions. Never lose the ball, tidy up on all your breaks, tidy up on your passing. If you're a defender, don't concede goals, tidy up in your head, and just try and improve yourself every single day. And I feel like when the daily habits are improving day in, day out, and they're consistent, you'll get to where you need to be. Again, credit to the club, credit to Kenny, credit to Tiernan, credit to all the staff around the place. They've worked so hard, and I was actually privileged to be a good part of it. I sort of joined in the area where they just got promoted to the Premier League, and I joined that Christmas. And I've seen the work that's gone on to make the club full time. I've seen the work that's gone on in the first team. I've seen the culture that Gaffer's created. I've seen the culture Kenny's created within the club. I've seen the type of character he brought into the club. So again, the big thing is it's massive. It's massive on what we're doing right now in this country. It's so refreshing to see that Larne are giving young players a platform to go on and develop their careers further. And again, it's just about the players buying into it. Again, the facilities. the facilities and the people around it. They just got to buy into it. I feel like the place is thriving at the minute. I feel like the first team are doing well. I feel like the academy's in a good place. The scholarship's in a good place. So everything's here for them. They just really need to buy into it. And yes, they're going to have down days, and yes, they're going to have up days. But it's just remaining that on a consistent basis, remaining level-headed, and just coming in every day to want to get better every day. And I feel like if the players do that, then there's no reason why they can't go on and have a good Irish League career or get their moves. You use Dylan Sloan, for example. Dylan, when he was first sort of breaking through training, I was a first-team player here at Larne, and you seen straight away that he was a really good kid, worked hard, worked his socks off every day. And then when I was sort of transitioning from maybe being out of the first team to maybe coming to coach, I was playing a few 20s games, and his attitude didn't change, whether he was with the first team, whether he was with the 20s, whether he was with the 18s. It just didn't change. His daily habits stuck, and credit to the kid, he's now reaping the rewards. And yes, it might take you 4 years, it might take you 4 months. It's probably that wee bit of luck you need, but you need to be prepared for that luck. And the big thing is, if you're not prepared for luck, and if you haven't done all the basics in terms of getting yourself fitter, getting yourself stronger, getting yourself quicker, eating right, you're sleeping right, your daily habits, if you haven't done all that and then the luck doesn't happen, or you're not prepared when your wee chance does come across, you're not going to take it, or you're not going to be in the best place to take it. First of all, just be a good person. I think me stepping into coaching now, yes, ultimately I put a team on the park to win games and produce players, and who I think at that time is probably trained the best that week, or who's in the best mindset to play a game for me. But ultimately there's always that question in the back of my mind to go, do I trust this kid? Or how much do I trust this kid? Or how much does this kid want it? And how hard is he working to get to where he wants to be? So the big thing for me is just, and I'll always go back to it, just your daily habits. Being a good person and sticking to working hard, find out your flaws. Yes, you can always say, I'm good at this, I'm good at that. Find out what you're not good at and just make them better. And yes, still improve on the things you're good at, but see all the other things you're weak at. Speak to people, speak to myself, speak to Keith, speak to Gaffer, speak to Kenny, speak to Glenn Wilton, speak to Mick O'Boyle. They're all around this building. So whatever you feel like, and usually players don't say it out loud, they always go home to their beds, and I was that person before where you know the answers. You can put your head in the pillow and you know what you're good at, but you're always scared to ask the question. That was a big thing. I was always quite scared. I was always scared to go and approach managers. I was always scared to go and approach the people who want to help me, because I always thought that they're going to think something of me and then they're not going to blame me. And ultimately stepping into management, and I want players to come to me every single day. What have I got to get better at, Mitch? What do you see me? How do I get in your team? How do I get in that first team? How do I get up training with the first team? How do I get to be on the bench to the first team? And they're the questions that I want, because they're the questions that no one likes to answer. And I like answering them. I like saying to the player, listen, you need to improve in this, and this is what you need to be better at. And if Leroy Miller's doing it, you need to be doing it. And if Leroy Miller's in the gym before you half an hour earlier, you need to be in 40 minutes earlier. If Leroy Miller's eating 10 plates of pasta, you eat 11. If he's in at 11:30 to the building, you be in at 10 o'clock. So that's the big thing about being an academy player, being a scholarship player, being that wee connection to the first team. But you need to be really pushing on the toes of the first team boys. They'll not want to hear it, but being a first team player, they love it. They love being around kids who are thriving, who are giving everything, and they're just good people. And that's one thing that I'll say. So just work hard, be a good person, find out your flaws, make them better, and your strengths just keep improving them.